So, Chasing Rainbows in Search of Wonder in Gestalt Therapy, and this is actually October 5th, 2025. I thank you for your patience in these little housekeeping things. Okay, so in this presentation, as I just told you, begins our 75th year of and at the New York Institute for Gestalt Therapy, and actually points us forward to our monthly presentations and our June conference. Our conference theme is the past in the present, the future in the moment. The past in the present, the future in the moment. And can there be a more suitable theme for this institute that, as it said, is as old as Gestalt therapy itself and has kept itself alive with generation after generation of Gestalt therapists, each generation adding something new to the theory and practice, and each generation taking from the previous and always handing over its wisdom to the next. So in what follows, I'm going to celebrate this institute, my Gestalt home for almost 50 years.
Dan, excuse me. I'm hearing someone typing.
Yes.
Click, click, click. I wonder if it might be Raymond. I'm not sure.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Susan.
Everybody mute.
Everybody mute.
everyone should be muted.
Yep. Yep. Everybody should be muted. So in what follows, I'm going to celebrate this institute and I'm going to organize around this theme of wonder, which you will see, or I have seen, is a central thread of Gestalt therapy as a phenomenological practice. And I'll speak for about an hour, have a small group discussion. And during my speaking, I'm going to have some experiential moments. So, chasing wonder, chasing rainbows. My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. That's from the poet, English romantic poet, William Wordsworth. I'm always chasing for something. I'm always looking for something, and why can't I find it? And Socrates would have said, why can't I find what I'm looking for? It's simple. If you found it, you wouldn't be looking for it. You always have to be looking for something, and this is an ongoing process of discovery. I'm attracted to this process without the true expectation that I'll find something to satisfy my search. I haven't yet. I don't expect I ever will. I'm attracted to this process, and I invite you with me to chase rainbows and using rainbows as the paradigm for wonder. And wonder is the elusive experience whose promise draws us. Rainbows. What are they? The visible play of sunlight and rain. And I can't tear my eyes away from them. They hang in the sky at the horizon that always shifts the closer I get. They fascinate. They're beautiful. We can't rush to them. No matter how fast I can be, they're always there, beckoning and beyond my reach. A rainbow is a gesture of the world to us. It's the symbol of hope, a promise that the storm has ended and sunlight is just beginning to pierce those clouds. Hope, hope, and light. These are the aesthetic promise, the felt and sensed promise that the rain is ending. And it's not an understatement for me to say that the world at this time needs rainbows of hope, of promise, and of sunlight more than ever. But there's a problem. Days follow one another as if in a blur. Days follow as if the Earth's rotation has sped up. It's hard to grab hold of what matters. And what matters seems fragile or stretched thin by the pace of things. What is important in the morning is gone by the evening. The earth as if slips from under our feet. Critical sociologists have noted our increasing sense of acceleration. We can't keep up with things. We rush from one thing after another. As soon as we find what was new, it becomes dull and unsatisfying. And we look for another. I mean, blame this on mass media, blame this on instantaneous news, blame this on ready entertainment. If you must, somehow can't. But something is to blame. And blaming is not just complaining to deaf ears and is useless when things are beyond possible of being changed. Blaming is useless. We can't catch up. Acceleration. Time itself is not only accelerated, quickened, it is dispersed, scattered. Our rushed minutes don't add up to meanings that might hold them together. Life is dizzying and chaotic. Democracies come and go. Borders are drawn, redrawn, erased with blood, our blood. Wars are desperate, impulsive grasps for meaning to destroy our sense of hope, destroy rainbows, turn us into migrants and refugees, people threatened by this dispersion. Acceleration thins experience, desensitizes and dilutes the aesthetic of living. Dispersion fragments, turns the whole into fractured parts, shuts us down to wonder, shuts us down from the whole. Now, this isn't new. As much as we're going to say this is unique to us in history right now, this is not new. It's happened before in history. God knows the Industrial Revolution was a shock. God knows the invention of the printing press shocked those whose trade was writing. And even in Plato, the invention of writing things down, Socrates complained, would make us we would no longer need our memory. Things were moving fast. Things are always moving fast. Yet this situation is handed down to us to live through. It is ours right now. So we can try to understand that anew. We can try to understand that as Gestalt therapists involved in the clinical practice of turning, as Donna Orange put it, useless suffering into useful suffering. So we can try to chase that rainbow of possibilities in a world re-enchanted by the aesthetic of contacting, which can deepen our experience and give us a renewed access to meaning and slow us down. And to get there, I will cross the landscape of contacting, survey it. For when we distill Gestalt therapy down to its core, what do we find but contacting itself? And when we open this very notion of contacting and look for its vitality, which kind of we know is there because we're beginning to experience it, at its heart, what do we find? But curiosity, our interest, the heat of each moment reaching for the next. A chasing of rainbows, curiosity turned into wonder. And for all this, we need to take our time. And I'm going to come back to you so you can be in my room with me and we could chase that rainbow as background. So I understand the core New York Institute of Gestalt Therapy's approach as a through line refined over our 75 years. It's my understanding. Feel the sequence of contacting, self-structures and functioning, and the aesthetic of contacting. If somebody can mute themselves, that'd be great. I can mute everybody, but I don't think that's fair. Surely Gestalt therapy is more than this, and some might say it's even less than this. But here is not the place to settle this matter. Right now, I'm talking about what I've gathered from the New York Institute for Gestalt Therapies. I'm living at the New York Institute for Gestalt Therapy. I'm going to clarify these themes in a bit and put them over here. Each of them compose one whole within which we find and we create, find and create, and are created by novelty through a process of desire and interest, curiosity, and wonder. Our human experience spans the arc from the unaware through the aware and even further toward the not yet aware. The next draws us from what was, what is, to what is next. We dream toward the future from this present enriched with our lived past. Not our chronicle of the past, but the past that we are living in this very moment as I'm speaking to you and as you're hearing me. We are living in our dream forward and in our articulation, in our experience of our lived past. This is what the New York Institute at 75 years hands over to Gestalt therapy. The next, and a rainbow is the future we reach toward and is experienced in the present as wonder, as awe, and as the sublime. We come upon it by surprise, always as surprise. Reflect for a moment. Have I ever not been surprised by a rainbow? Absolutely not. And the 19th century English poet, romantic poet again, William Blake, he found infinity in a grain of sand, eternity in an hour. This is extraordinary. But actually, our work as Gestalt therapists is to discover the extraordinary from within the ordinary, to turn the insignificant into the significant, to find infinity in a grain of sand, and uh, uh, to find infinity in a grain of sand. And we do this in contacting. It shines forth with the aesthetic spectacle of the world. Spectacle. As the French phenomenologist of perception Merleau-Ponty described the world as it appears to us in its raw, unfiltered perception, a spectacle, a display. We find it as we pause to let experience emerge. Emerge rather than forced forward. And Gestalt therapy always understood contacting as experiencing novelty, the not me and the cannot be me. That's basic to our first founding text. We move towards what draws us, which we draw to us. It is not one directional towards the world. It is the world drawing us. We are of the world. The world is of us. We need to slow down. I just did. We need to slow down and let each moment gather from the last, rather than be dispersed, and be open to wonder as the rainbow, the promise toward which we reach. This is in our theory of self-process and function in terms of its sequence, and it is always, always, always as an embedded sense of the situation as the basis of contacting. Right here in the side of my mind, at the back of my mind, are the voices saying, hey, make sure you don't get the sense that I'm talking about an individualistic model. I'm talking about everything in terms of interpersonality. That itself is not only an I, it includes a we, and that is flesh and blood of every moment. So that was in my side note, not footnote. So to linger with one another, to abide with one another, to dwell with one another, to slow down to the pace of the forming figure, the forming self. So, how do we do this? This is a hint. I invite you to, again, get your feet on the floor, ground, whatever it is for you to settle into yourself for a moment for the purpose of this brief experiment. Can you feel your pulse? Find it. I can't find it. I find it. And now, have you found it? You found it. Close your eyes. And would you extend your hands and beat that rhythm as if you were an orchestra conductor? Up, down, left, right, however it is for you, whatever movement emerges from your sense of yourself and your pulse. And would you open your eyes slowly and keep moving your arm? And can you check out the rhythms of the people in these rectangles in our room together, in this moment together, in this workshop, in this presentation? Get a sense of that. You're seeing one another's rhythm. And this I offer to you is the pulse of us together. This is our timing. This is ourselves in time. Look around. Take your time. What is this like for you? I'm going to return to this notion of pulse and pause and being open to it later in one way or another, hopefully with interest. Now I want to turn to the theoretical foundation that supports our chase for this rainbow. And again, this is my understanding of Gestalt Therapy of the New York Institute approach that I referred to above, and it is my understanding. This isn't doctrine. This isn't hard and fast. These are soft concepts. For me, they've changed over time, and I suspect they will continue to change. I offer them as a guiding principle here of my presentation. I'm going to move through this too quickly. So our approach rests on several pillars. Field theory, the contact boundary, the sequence of contacting self as function and process, and perhaps most distinctively, and maybe one of the great contributions of New York Institute for Gestalt Therapy, the aesthetic of contacting. And I've developed these variously elsewhere. So again, I'm not going to take time to flesh these out. If you can email me, and I'll refer you to some of the things I've written. Field. In our original formulation, contacting emerges from the organism environment field. Field is not merely a physical mechanical process. It can't be measured by meters, charted with X and Y coordinates. It's a phenomenal place. It's the place of our living. It's the birthplace of contacting, the world of lived experience. Some of us have added to this notion of field, organism environment field, some things we've taken from phenomenology itself. The world of life, the world of lived experience, the life world, which is populated by one another, populated by our history. And if you look around your screen, you will see stitched together rectangle after rectangle after rectangle, which compose our field of this group process. So contacting, it's the process of being in touch with the world, with what is not me. Oh, wait, I gotta go around. It proceeds in a continuum from unaware to aware to conscious, and of course to meeting the other, material, immaterial, a thing, and a human being. It even proceeds to the not yet sharply aware that are hints at the edges of horizon. It's the unseen, the unheard, the silent, invisible hints of what be next, the hints of the rainbow, the hints of wonder. And this is a process of moving, sensing, feeling, doing, and knowing. Now to self. I pause, mindful of being too fast and mindful that I have all the time there is, not the time that isn't. And self. We always have to stress that self is not a thing. I don't think I've ever introduced self without saying that. It is more a verb than a noun, but actually neither. Figure that one out. We have no easy way of putting these into words. Selfing has been proposed by some, and to my taste, it's unnecessarily awkward. It gets stuck in my tongue and stings my ears. It's my taste. And other people outright reject the whole word of self and replace it with sense of self. And this makes sense. Yet to me, this is redundant because it tries to clarify by making it more complicated. Self is the organization and organizing of contacting processes into three possible structures or functions: the id or it function, the ego or I function, and the personality function. What was wonderful for me in presenting to people for whom English is not their first language, and then to get into touch with the translations of my precious founding texts, to see that these translations already changed id to it, changed ego to I, and changed personality to person. And what a wonderful way of understanding what was inside the theory that was expressed to me inadequately in English, adequately in the English translations of the other languages out of which Gestalt therapy is understood in various cultures. Again, theory doesn't exist. Theory is drawn from experience and is always chasing experience. The id function is our felt sense of the situation. And thank you, Jean-Marie Robin, for that wonderful phrase, the id of the situation. And the ego function is our agency. It's the I, our doing, our finding, our making, our choosing, and so on. The personality function is our response to the question, who are you? It's the framework of our identities, our history, our accumulated knowledge. Self-process is a way of understanding the temporal sequence of contacting. Sequence. This is crucial to what I am proposing today. I want to focus on two elements that form the foundation of our chasing wonder. This temporal sequence of contacting and the aesthetic of contacting. The essential to my theory, practice, and what I hope is my clinical effectiveness. The sequence of contacting, and here lies the temporality of contacting, the felt sense of time's passage. Our experience expands or contracts. It takes its own time. This is not measured by seconds, minutes, or hours, but by the experience of passage. I'm struck by there are two German words for experience, Erlebnis and Erfahrung. Erfahrung has within it the notion of traveling, of process. And Erlebnis has the impression of the immediate felt sense and experience. I put them together in my own understanding of Gestalt therapy. And I'm looking right at you, Friedhelm. I'm probably messing up German. But well, hell, I have that. Since I don't know enough German, I have the right to make those blunders. A sequence flows as time itself. A sequence, not a cycle, because nothing repeats. It's a sequence. Time, and we understand contacting as a process, we're embracing the sequence of contacting, not a moment, not a dot, not a single note, but a moment as a pulse of time, a dot as a moment on a line. A note outside of its sequence would be merely a sound and not be music. A sequence is our intentionality of contacting, our yielding from, our reaching toward, our grasping onto and releasing from, as Roella Frank, my dearest friend and fellow Gestalt clinical phenomenologist, describes. And again, I may be butchering that, but forgive me. I did. Looking right at you. The sequence of contacting, though there is no static course, is framed by the living past and dreaming towards the lived future. That's a brief commercial for our conference. The sequence of contacting proceeds through forecontacting, in which our felt sense of the situation or the id functioning of self merges into awareness. It proceeds through contact itself as we act in the world and become in touch with its otherness. This is the ego functioning. We move towards what we need and away from what we don't want. Contacting continues to final and post-contacting, in which we assimilate novelty and kind of take a breath for the next. This simplification cries out for elaboration, and a cry I will resist as I remain faithful to our chasing of wonder, and my sense of my time here, right here, is limited. But I'll say this. While it may sound as if I laid out a schematic step-by-step process, this is not so. Contacting is fluid, and while it seemingly moves from its goal, It is much more like the waves of the sea than an arrow shot toward its target. Think of overlapping flowing. Think of ebbing and flowing. Our impulse to condemn and imprison living experience to, to discrete and fixed things is irresistible. Our impulse to condemn and imprison living experience into fixed things is irresistible. But the sequence is temporality itself, and this is the phenomenon of time. I invited you to explore this and asked you to be open to the rhythm of experience. Perhaps your experience gives blood and flesh to what I've just described. This sequence can be rushed, it can be crushed, but not without consequences for our capacity to discover wonder. It can be accelerated, and we can give short shrift to our felt sense of the world that we experience in contacting. It can be crushed so that we lose our sensitive presence, now being open to the sights, the sounds, and the resonances of what is around us. And consider our patience. The depressive experiences in which time as if stands still. Anxious experiences in which the future is crammed into a suffering and breathless present. Consider the flatness and disconnection of personality disorders, the chaos and havoc of the confused storms of experiencing, and the repetition of obsessive compulsive experiences as if the passage of time doesn't matter and that twirling fixed gestalt is immune to the experience of the world itself. Ego and personality functioning of self lose vitality, lose their direction, their sense of orientation. We skip over the riches of being engaged with one another and our world in common. Contacting has its own time. You and I have our own time. And we find time in the contactful enjoyments with one another. We make time when we allow ourselves to be in touch, contacting the pulse of each moment. Yeah. The spectacle of the world of perception. This is a grand way of saying the world appears to us as the aesthetic of contacting. The aesthetic of this spectacle. The aesthetic of this spectacle is another linchpin of the New York Institute for Gestalt Therapy's perspective. And our founders were committed to this perspective. And Fritz Perls was involved with expressionist theater and art in his formative years. Paul Goodman was arguably as much a poet and writer as he was one of the writers and thinkers of Perls, Heffernan, and Goodman, Gestalt Therapy, Excitement, and Growth, our founding text. I was told by those who knew Paul that William Wordsworth was his favorite poet. And then Laura. Her background in dance and music infused her approach. I remember arriving at her door for one of her groups. I entered her living room, and she barely looked up as I stood there, embraced by the music and the aesthetic atmosphere of that room, as she played Schubert on her Bechstein piano. So it comes as no surprise when we find in our founding text references to the aesthetic criterion of contacting. Or we hear Laura say time again and again that Gestalt therapy is an aesthetic approach. On these aesthetic terms, the sequence of contacting flows with a rhythm, harmony, kinesthetic grace, and clarity. which are all sensed and felt. And these aesthetic qualities reflect the richness of contacting. The more certain the rhythm, the more the parts of experience harmoniously cohere. The more the flow emerges in natural grace, the sharper the figure, the greater the sense of self and connection with the world. And here is where the temporal sequence of contacting shows its relevance again. The more this temporal flow is disrupted, the dimmer the felt and sensed aesthetic will be. The aesthetic of contacting cannot be rushed or accelerated without stretching it thin. Now, aesthetic of contacting really isn't a theory of beauty. I make a differentiation between aesthetic and aesthetics. Others don't. But from my understanding, when I talk about the aesthetic criterion, it's what I've just said. When I talk about the aesthetics of contacting, I immediately introduce theories of beauty, form. And I'm not prepared to go there. So desensitization, or worse, that's rushed aesthetic. And let me make this tangible. Take a moment. Once again, notice your breathing. I'm doing it too. Now hold your breath. You've disrupted the fundamental way of being in touch with the world, the way your life is sustained, how your life is sustained. The lack of air triggers an experience of anxiety. And if you started now to breathe very quickly, you might get dizzy and lightheaded. If we take breathing as a metaphor for the pulse of our being in the world, an indicator of the air we need and the air around us, we have a window into the temporality of contacting and the way in which it can be disrupted. In this experiment, you impose an artificial rhythm. Our clients, our patients often find themselves in a rhythm that is natural to them, habitual to them, yet also arguably disrupts the aesthetic of contacting. Arguably, this is not science. We could probably do another version of this by having you stand up and move around at various speeds and move so quickly that you stumble. For some of us, it will be a very, very 2 seconds before we stumble. For others, it'll be more graceful and it'll be a little harder to stumble. But you could change your pace, change to an unfamiliar pace. With more time, maybe I propose it, but imagining it works too, as an imitation. Think now, right? Think now of that rainbow hanging in the sky, coming from nowhere, and as if pausing in the air before it slowly fades and fades and fades, to leave its memory imprinted on the sky, out of sight, but not unseen. Its memory in the sky. I'm reflecting and remembering that the sky after a rainbow dissipates is not the sky before the rainbow appeared.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
A rainbow is frail. It's fleeting. Think of who you are, the thriving embodiment of your past toward your future, and to certain death. The temporality of contacting has within it the existentiality of Gestalt therapy. It's implied, it's nearly stated when we use the word final contact. The aesthetic of experience is almost defined by impermanence. I think it is defined by impermanence. Without this, how can we experience wonder? Music, it disappears. It exists only as a function of its own sequence. You look at a work of visual art when you're suddenly overcome by its aesthetic. That doesn't last forever. It comes and goes, it comes and goes. When you think of the aesthetic of spaces, when you think of atmospheres, you're thinking of something that is easily dissipated, that can't be held, but felt and known. Something that is of us and we are of it. And I use it with reservation. Diaphanous, unstable, uncertain, frail, like light, like you, like me. So what then? What then is wonder? You've come here to chase it with me. I wish myself good luck. Isidore Fromm is one of the significant voices at the New York Institute. Once referred to Gestalt therapy as a psychotherapy of the ordinary. Actually, he referenced us as plumbers. That was that annoyed lots of us, especially the young Gestalt therapists who were beginning to think that they were learning a way to save the world, and it was the way. Unfortunately, I guess some people still think that. It annoyed us. But the connotation of Isidore's phrase, as if it were pointlessness notwithstanding, he didn't mean unimportant. When we do this, when we pay attention to the ordinary, we're making a transformation of the ordinary into the extraordinary.
Mm.
Infinity in a grain of sand.
Mm.
I push this further. The extraordinary is what is novel. And certainly this is central to contacting. Contacting is a process of engagement of our interest with the world. It involves curiosity, fascination. Comes to mind the stories of Charles Darwin, focusing on the minute moments of experience. He gathered information about, of all things, finches and snails. And out of this focused attention, this interest and curiosity, he developed the important theories of natural selection. I recently read that he and his wife used to watch a leaf growing and measure it almost minute by minute to clock in a phenomenal way, in an observational way, the process of growing. And I couldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. The extraordinary is what is novel, and certainly this is central to contacting. It's a process of engagement with the world and the world's engagement with us. This involves curiosity. Something has to awaken our curiosity. Something has to call to me to pay attention. Something has to force me sometimes to be interested. I'm compelled sometimes by fascination. But what if this novelty, what is novel that we touch and quote contact, what if it exceeds our capacity to grasp? Exceeds our capacity to grasp, exceeds our capacity to comprehend, to understand, to take its weight and measure, exceeds. What happens when this aesthetic of contacting the felt and sense figure as if overwhelms? Oh, now we are in the realm of the sublime, of awe. And this is wonder of a world that refuses to be categorized or reduced to understanding. A wonder that the world that beckons us beyond itself, that rainbow. It points us to a place to which we can never go, a destination we can never reach. Laura Pearls once said to us that the suffering of a couple is their mutual attempt to turn the significant otherness into insignificant sameness. Its effect is to dampen any possibility of surprise or delight or wonder in the relationship. It turns the spontaneity of a caress into a clutching grip. This was a flattening of the aesthetic of their relationship, the extraordinary into the level terrain of the ordinary. Think for a moment about hugging somebody you love. You're drawing the person to yourself, you hold closely, because in the background is a sense that you're going to have to release. When we step back and allow the aesthetic temporality of contacting to be present, we allow for lingering. Lingering. It is neither active nor passive. It's not directionless, yet not sharply aimed at any goal. Neither hurried nor slow, it is in its own time, in our own time. We linger, we stroll. Verweilen. I borrow verweilen from the German philosopher Martin Heidegger, whose laser attention to our being in the world is staggering. He proposed that in order for things to show themselves to us as what they are, which he defined as phenomenology, in order for things to show themselves for what they are, we need to linger with experience, to let being be. Gelassenheit. That's Heidegger. I mean, a bunch of years ago, I went to the Munich Staatsoper with Renate Pearls and Fritz and Laura's daughter. It was my first time in that theater. And history was as if painted on the walls of its grand marble staircase and portraits everywhere. I walked through, I could almost smell Ludwig II of Bavaria. I could almost sense the rivalry between that theater and Wagner's theater in Bayreuth. I walked through the space chattering with a friend. Renata turned to me and with her famous harshness, perhaps the harshness she inherited from her father, not her mother, she said, not softly, "Will you shut up and look around?" She commanded me to stop, to pause, to stop, to pause, to breathe in that atmosphere. Verweilen. This opening, this pause, is the portal to wonder. I looked around at those staircases and at the gilt ceiling, I breathed in that atmosphere, overwhelmed by the music that I couldn't hear, but was there nevertheless. I was about to hear a very good performance of Wagner's Tannhäuser, which I have to just tell you, one of the best performances of that opera. I still recall some of it. Wonder, 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 wonder. With lingering, with Verweilen, self remains fluid and responsive. All it takes is for us to pause. And in this interval, let come to being what will be. We draw acceleration to a halt and gather our moments from their dispersion. Wonder emerges in this new fluidity. Interest and curiosity develop further into the dizziness of wonder. This is excess, excess, as if at the edges of self-functioning. We're not active agents of the world. We are not passive. We are in a space that is neither active nor passive. Rather, we're responsive to our hearts that leap up to see rainbows in the sky, or with the eyes of Vincent van Gogh to uncover the wonder in the starry night. With which I conclude the didactic. And come back to you. No. Look around. Check in with one another. I have an experiential exercise, and we're going to leave a lot of time for our conversation together. I'm very pleased to see that I'm just about finished on time. This is okay. I'd like just to. I'm going to add. How do I do this? I'm going to break us into breakout rooms, and the breakout rooms will contain 5 people, and um, we have 70 people present, 67 people present, all ashore who's going ashore. So it's 61 people. Do I hear 60? 59. I want to break this into groups of 5. 58, 59, 59. Okay, so okay. Let me just do this. Okay, I assign automatically. Okay, so it's 5 into 56 goes 11 times. All right. Somebody whose arithmetic exists. My numbers have no independent existence for me. So it's 11 groups, which is a relief. I was afraid we'd have to do 50. I'm going to ask you to go into your groups. I'm going to suggest directed portions. In the first go around, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in your own language. And then I'd like people to sort of take a breath. What it was like for you to speak to the group. What it was like for you to hear, to listen. Then I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. Well, no, in English again. Slowly. Slowly and take your time. Linger with your words. Take your time. Allow yourself to pause. In your introduction, you can say what you like. But say it slowly. And my instruction to you all is to experience the differences, if any, between speaking at a normal conversation and listening to somebody speak, or paying attention to the pauses between the words. And notice what it is like for you to take your time. And notice what it's like for you to be being compelled to take your time as you listen. Take a few minutes for that. I'll say maybe 15. No, maybe a little bit more, 20. See, when I figure out time, it's like throwing something at you at random. Okay, 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm going to intervene. I'm going to make a broadcast to you all in your small groups. Actually, I just did it. Okay. I just jumped ahead to the second instruction. So, okay, the first instruction, is it clear? Introduce yourself, your own language. Introduce yourself in English. The first time, at whatever speed you're used to speaking. And the second time, taking the time. Taking your time. And then pay attention and discuss what your reaction was. Whatever came up. And if impressions or thoughts or questions about the theme of this presentation emerged, you can bring that here to the larger group. I think we have a barely workable number. Choose somebody in your group, maybe, who you would like to speak for you if you don't get a chance to speak. And I'll call on that as well. So is that I'm not looking at let me take a look. Is that clear? I'm looking at the chat. It's clear enough?
The last phrase you used, Dan, of choose someone to speak for you. Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
if we don't get a chance to talk, or
Correct. Sort of like the reporter of the group. Yeah. Um, and okay, okay. Uh, I'm looking at the comments and English first and second. Well, that should be your whatever language is natural to you. Okay, everybody. Again, any questions? Put in the chat. I'll try to. You can put it in the chat to me directly during the group, and I will do what I can to respond. Okay. And you'll be given a warning naturally through Skype about the group coming to an end. Okay. Here you go.
Will you go on recording?
Um, right now, I don't think the small groups are recorded, but
Okay.
when you return from the groups, that will be recorded.
But Dan, are you going to put this together into a group of 5, or
Yes.
how is that going to happen?
Well, there are going to be 11 groups and it 5. So one of you may wind up in a smaller group, and but it's not going to be terrible. Okay, ready? Go. See you later. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm glad to be back with you. I always feel left out,
Hmm.
but I'm also relieved that I'm left out. Story of my life. Story of my life. So I'm interested to hear what your experiences were. You just put your hands up, and I'll look around. Hey, Raymond.
Hi, Dan. Hello,
Hey.
everybody. So breaking the silence, which was very much in our group as well. We had long silences. And actually, the English speakers were the minority for a change. Yeah, we got some Turkish, Greek, Swiss German. I think it was quite melodious. But then Ted looked at my family name and made a comment about Sainer, And I said to him, it reminded me when I was once doing a seminar in New York many years ago. And a participant looked at me and my name tag and said, "Are you saner than me?" And on top of it, "You're a psychologist, so you can read my mind." I said, no, don't worry. I have limited competencies. But it reminded me of contacting, in the sense that when really letting it happen to meet somebody, there are moments of silence. And the longer the process goes, the more I realize that my own awareness of the other person shifts. I have, discover, just by not even saying much, I discover other aspects of the other person, because I'm making sense or trying to make sense. And I project whatever I project on the other person until the ice is broken when the person starts to speak. So that contacting with silence can be quite rich in terms of experience.
And I had to step away for a pressing natural moment, and I'm wondering, are we now talking from as spokesperson for the groups, or are we having a more general discussion?
More general, but if you care to speak of your group, I don't think there's a reason not to.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not the spokesperson for my group, but I just wanted to be sure because at some point I would like to say something.
Oh yeah, well, go ahead, Michael.
Well, yeah, I was taken by your quite lovely and penetrating presentation, Dan, and I want to stay with the rainbow metaphor for a moment, which is, we have a saying in English, and maybe it's in other languages as well, that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But I think that is a misunderstanding of the rainbow, because I think the rainbow does not have a beginning and an end. That's and that there's not a pot of gold like a reward of some material thing at the end. I think of the rainbow as a portal. And I think It's only a beginning and end if we make the rainbow an I, a first person singular. But the rainbow as a we is a portal into a realm of love.
Hmm.
And uh, that it strikes one with, as you said, Dan, surprise, with wonder. But these are the qualities also of love. And I think it's
Well,
worth stressing that. Uh, I think curiosity indeed is the greatest ally of love. We always love a stranger. The past, the past of love is the intimate knowledge of the other. But the present and future are always loving a stranger yet to be discovered and known and known again and known again. And
however,
if that were the case, I think that, the question of the long term of loving relationships it could never become boring because you would always be incomplete and discovering. And just one other remark on what I was thinking about in this light is that, you know, morality and justice without love are tend to be bad news because it becomes my morality and my justice, and then the other person's morality and their justice. That doesn't lead to love, that leads to war. And we need to have love to make morality and justice really meaningful and fully human.
You got hearts, Mike.
And those do warm me. Thank you.
I wanted to say that just even when I got the email about this workshop, I was reminded of that poem by Lawrence Ferlinghetti, I Am Waiting. And I pulled it up, and the last three lines are, and I am waiting perpetually and forever, a renaissance of wonder. And that was what, 1950s, something like that, 60s.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
proud of you.
I say Olivier, and if you raise your hands, I can get you. I think you appear in order, but yeah, Olivier, yeah, I see your hand. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Yes, thank you. Um, we had a group of four, and there was English, French, and Croatian. And we discovered by and by that everyone had this experience of during your presentation, Dan, of shifting sometimes, shifting away and coming back, like being. I guess it's fair if I say it like this: not not fully with you the full time is what we discovered was common between us. So that was interesting because of your invitation to connect as well, and the fact of expressing in your mother tongue brought something more. Even if we said, regular things that you say about yourself when you first introduce. And also an observation, maybe it was more me, that it was a bit difficult to slow down during the second round of describing. Yeah, that's about what I have to say from our group. Thank you.
Yep. Perry. Perry, I see.
Perry, unmute.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. Mm. Perry, unmute.
Perry, unmute.
I'm asking to unmute somebody.
I don't know if you can hear us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Oh,
Hi.
Sherry.
No, Perry,
Oh, Perry. Okay.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Ah.
I apologize. I was pressing on my unmute button a couple of times.
Yeah.
Sometimes the universe intervenes.
Yeah.
I wanted to I wanted to say that in our group we followed your instructions and it was interesting. And I relate it back to your goal of identifying an experiential group process. So as we did it in our group, we were able to identify that speaking in a modulated speed, I was and another participant was able to identify a contraction and the experience of that contraction and what that meant in terms of our contacting sequence. So it was a good association with all the things you mentioned as a contact boundary sequence, and aesthetics. And as Michael brings in, I'm thinking of the aesthetic of love, and of also the unity of the aesthetic unity of being one with oneself, and the challenge of the contact boundary, speaking in a primary native tongue and speaking in an adopted tongue. So those are so different, and they evoke all the feelings of that adaptation and what was involved in that. So thank you, Dan, for the experiment that opened me up to seeing in the simple act of a simple contact without that being in any way negative. One is able to elaborate, as Gestalt therapy does, the process of growth and experience with awareness. Yeah.
Thank you. Borana, I see your hand up.
Yes, wanted to share about our group. We were 4 people and 2 English speakers and 2 Macedonian and Italian/Albanian. I was just trying to sense right now after the conversation what was the atmosphere in the group as a post-reflection, let's say, while interacting with the others, and the fact of transitioning from mother tongue to other languages, but the opportunity of expressing ourselves in mother tongue. I think this created a sense of intimacy in the group and increased curiosity, I would say, towards the other. And what I also noticed in our group in particular is that while we were focusing on introducing ourselves, several of us mentioned that we were wondering all the time how the others were receiving the message. So I had this impression that we were in ourselves because we were exposing ourselves to the group, but at the same time, we were always to this frontier of the contact, how the other was receiving the message. Yeah.
Anybody want to speak from your group, of your group? More?
Okay, I'll jump in. I have a lot of distraction in the background here, but my group, we had two people from Ukraine, and otherwise me and Michael, and I'm looking for a psychiatrist from New York who joined us. Where are you? Somewhere. Anyway, so we had one of the things that came out of the processing was in the second round being more casual and just wanting to relate to each other in a little bit more clear way, as Maria, I think, spelled out very clearly, that there's a feeling of wanting to directly relate to each other, not just speak of ourselves.
Sherry, you're raising your hand.
Hi there. This was the first breakout group that didn't technically work for me ever. And I felt so existentially left out. It was a fabulous presentation. I was really looking forward to the group. And I had my own existential situation, which of course mirrored some aspect of my upbringing. But I'm glad you all had it. And I'm just kind of reverberating with that now. I tried everything I could. I was at every other breakout group we had, and but not this one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Couldn't break him.
Couldn't break in.
Your breakout group.
Yeah.
Oh, babe.
Sure.
Very existential.
Yeah. Well, don't take it personally.
No, I did not. I did not take it personally.
Yeah.
I felt the reverberations from my life world in the beginning. But I'll deal with that subsequently, I guess. It was a great talk, Dan, and it was really, really great. And I'm glad that other people had great groups. And I guess it's a good invigoration for me to explore subsequently. So thank you for letting me say that.
Yeah.
Dan, I would like to very briefly jump in. I lost my electricity in the middle of the first hour. I had to run down to the basement. At any rate, I'm now here on my phone.
Gee.
And so, Ray, you sent me a message, but I couldn't read it because I can't read it on my phone. And that's why I haven't answered you.
Okay.
So I wanted you to know that. And thank you, Dan, for a provocative and very poetic presentation.
My pleasure.
And I'll just add one quick thing to Frank's presentation of the group I was in, and that is about the experiment. I noticed that when I introduced myself at the beginning, it was a kind of historical introduction, and it was sort of personality function stuff. And when I slowed down, I was introducing myself much more in the present moment, and it seemed closer somehow to id function. It was more vibratory.
Yeah.
And I felt that when other people, someone else at least, we didn't have a lot of time for the second part, slowed down. There was more vibration and more something felt in the moment.
Yeah.
Responding to what you just said, Michael, we didn't all have a chance to do the slowing down, so I didn't get around to it. But my plan was to sing because I couldn't see any other way to slow down.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's vibratory. So just jumping off on what you just offered, Michael.
Yeah. That's why your singing is so beautiful to me.
Thank you, Dan.
That the most profound moments in music that I have experienced so far in my life was when the conductor takes time and allows the pause to be there. Often my breath stops. I get a little anxious, and then the music begins again. And as it begins again, it's as if the universe was recreated. I can name the times that I've heard it, and it's often mine.
You know, Dan, Miles Davis said of Ahmad Jamal, who was a jazz pianist who played very meticulously and slowly, and Miles Davis said, the spaces between the notes of Ahmad Jamal's improvisations are as important as the notes themselves.
Yes. And painters paint light, and that brings that out of that darkness emerges. So there's an interesting stuff going on there, I think. Yeah. Oksana.
Yeah, hi. Well, when you first suggested working in groups, I was one of those who wanted to run away because I think the language is not your own, is the vulnerable place, and that was a kind of the drive to just not to be vulnerable, I suppose.
Yeah.
And but those poses, I think they added a sense of tenderness. And after this whole experience, I would say that wasn't an experience of talking, but feeling and sharing the presence. And that was great for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
I forgot to be slowed down because I was with Sari and Amanda together, and I cannot be slowed down. I'm so excited with this two women. With these two women, it was very interesting to talk about what we are doing in our life. So the time was too short, and I can slow down by myself. But if I talk with Sari and Amanda, I have to speak English. I cannot slow down. I have to think what I have to say because my English is I have not so much words, so I have always to look to my words, and so I have no time to be slowed down. And the other is thank you for the poetic information about phenomenology. So it was really great. Thank you.
Pleasure. Another minute or two? There we go.
Before, when you were talking about the music, I just wanted to add that, of course, we all breathe with the conductor. You breathe in when they go up with the baton.
Miguel.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Firstly, thank you for your lovely presentation. In my group, we don't design something to speak about for the group, but we say that we are searching for this rainbow, but we are in different place to do from doing that. And we share about this, that for some is different, this searching. But my feeling was that we were together, two people from Ukraine, one from Portugal and me from Mexico. We could take our hands somehow in this searching, in this search for a rainbow. And that's what's a good feeling, knowing that we are in different places with the starting point, but we are all both. In some places it's raining very hard still.
Yeah.
And for others it's more clear the sky. So, but we can be together by sharing our feelings. Thank you.
When we need to come to an ending. When I gave a version of these ideas extended over 5 days, it was raining all of the time. Raining, 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 raining. And this is you can't make this up. In the last hour, the sun started coming out. Everybody ran to the window. And guess what? There was no rainbow. So that's and therein is the lesson about chasing a rainbow. Kind of bleak, but it's kind of not bleak because you still are drawn. Now, I want to thank you all very much for this opportunity to begin our 75th year. It was an honor to do that, and it was absolutely a pleasure for me to be speaking to you all. I feel fed, nourished, and excited by all of you, and I will hold that with me. I want to remind people about what's coming up at the Institute. And I will turn this over to Yael, who is both our vice president and the chair of the program committee. So Yael, would you like to say anything?
Dan, yes. Dan, first, thank you for starting us off so hopefully, optimistically. Such a beautiful amount of participants today. And if you like today, come back for more in 2 weeks. Our presentations have follow-up meetings. So if you really want to keep talking about this material, 2 weeks, Sunday, October 19th, you can use the same Zoom link, but we will send you a Zoom reminder if you registered for today. So I have everybody's names who registered for today's event. And then, yes, we have more presentations. The next is Sunday, October 26th, Martin Buber's In Between with Cornelia Muth. You definitely don't want to miss that. Please register on our website if you would like to attend. And of course you want to. Anyway, so happy to see all of you. Dan, thank you so much again.
You're welcome. And I want to invite you all, those of you who aren't, to become members of the Institute. Take a look on our website. We welcome everybody from whatever language you speak, wherever you are. Our door is always open, and it's members who have access to recordings of our meetings, which I think could be a very big draw. And, so again,
thank you, Yael. Thank you, Dan, so much for this presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome. Keep your cards and letters coming.
Okay. We'll pause and be patient. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dan.
Bye.
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 Mm.
Hello, everybody. Dan, lovely presentation.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yes, it was fun.